The MLB winter meetings came to a close on Thursday. Jorge Polanco appears to be close to a decision, but Brendan Donovan and Marte's sagas seem to be just beginning. Welcome to the Dom Skiing Channel, your one-stop shop for the Mariners storylines on Seattle's minds. Got my old Mariners hat on today. I don't think I'll ever find a hat that fits me as well as this one, or that I'll wear more times than this one. Got my Coug quarter zip on today because, as you know, Cougars are looking for a head coach. And I'm nothing if I'm not loyal, so got to be supporting them. And also, I've got this picture of me that I used in my last thumbnail. I'm showing it again, of me at 2 years old in my Mariners gear. And then here's I am at 27 years old. Not a thing has changed. Also want to give a shout out to my grandma Mary Lou, who got me this Christmas ornament. Grandma Mary Lou, if you're watching, shout out to you. You mean the world to me. I love you. Anyway, moving in to what's really going on. We've got 105 days till opening day, 71 till spring training games start, and 62 until pitchers and catchers report. This is our final video on the MLB winter meetings. So first of all, what I want to do is cover the news that the Mariners are not actively pursuing third base. First of all, it's Ben Williamson time. He's my pick for AL Gold Glove. I can't wait to see Ben Williamson playing a regular role in this team. Zoom this thing back in a little bit. Okay, we're good now. Anyway, Mariners not actively pursuing third base help. And then the other interesting thing about this is that there's news that Alex Bregman initiated discussions with Seattle, which this says everything about how hitters, free agents, and super agents' perspective on the Seattle Mariners has changed. We've heard for years, for my entire lifetime, basically, about how hitters don't want to play in Seattle for different reasons. The Teoscar Hernandez saga, things like that. And then also, I didn't even finish the sentence, but imagine what it would do to team chemistry to go sign Alex Bregman to this super lucrative deal. He got 40 mil AAV last year. I don't know if that's going to happen again, but say you give Alex Bregman $30 million over the next 3 years, and then that means that you have such a lower chance of signing George Kirby and Logan Gilbert when you get to them. And you're doing it for one of the biggest arch nemesis of the Mariners ever. You're filling in. Also before you get Jorge Polanco back, who is clutch for this team, it really doesn't fit the Mariners' philosophy right now to go get Alex Bregman. I just think it's awesome that he initiated discussions with Seattle when for years all we've been saying is, Scott Boras clients especially, never going to even sit with the Mariners and have a discussion. So that's just awesome to see. And it just means everything for this franchise moving forward for how we're perceived by free agents. Now, Ryan Divish gave a lot of big updates on Puck Sports yesterday on his YouTube channel. He did about a 20-minute interview. And I want to cover these because he was at the winter meetings. He gave a lot of insight into what was actually going on there, and he has a lot of inside information. So first of all, Jorge Polanco has the choice of the Mariners or the Pirates. I don't know if I mentioned the Pirates. I felt like I did mention the Pirates on here the other day as a potential other landing spot. I don't know who else Jorge Polanco is going to get bid on by. I know there was just slight interest from the Red Sox before at some point this offseason, but it doesn't really make sense for them. And then there was, the Pirates, they want to spend money. Jorge Polanco's out there. I thought that one made sense. And apparently he is talking to them. And really the question is, does he want the third year, or is he willing to sacrifice to stay in Seattle? If he goes to the Pirates, he will get that third year of the deal. He'll get probably 3 years, 45 mil, or 3 years, 40 mil-ish, something like that. 3 years, maybe, 3 years, 40 mil. But if he goes to more guaranteed money overall, obviously, for a guy who's old, who's really getting up there in age. But with the Mariners, he would get a higher AAV. We would definitely sweeten the pot up to $15 million a year and give him 2 years for 30. And then there's also the familiarity, the chemistry, and the competition. If he liked it here, he wants to stay here. He did so well with our new hitting coaches. And if he just wants to compete, the answer is to stay here. This is an interesting one. He could hit the market again, technically at 34 years old, but there's just no guarantees there, especially the way that his body hasn't really been able to hold up with injuries the last couple of years. Seems like it's definitely on the downturn. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see who he picks. But I won't be heartbroken if he goes to the Pirates and gets more guaranteed money. I think he's earned that payday. But also, if the Mariners do get to keep him, I think it just is a win-win for both sides. Even if the Mariners get Polanco, Divish reports they're still in on Brendan Donovan. And I just going to go ahead and shout out the Twitter. I know I'm starting to do this a lot, but going to shout out the Twitter user at Switch. You can see his Twitter @ right there. But he said it really well, so I'm just going to go ahead and directly quote him. Cardinals president of baseball operations, Shine Bloom, and his team are doing their due diligence and scouting on every team and their farm system. It may be a week or two before St. Louis is ready to engage on talks. A new president of baseball operations doing all of his due diligence. So the Brendan Donovan thing was never going to happen for another week or two anyway, but the Mariners are still very much in on it, regardless of how the Polanco thing goes. That's interesting. Ketel Marte will only be traded for a major league pitcher plus prospects. That's what the Diamondbacks think. If you're not trading a major league pitcher, you're not getting him. Now, Divish recommends, he says, that might look like a Bryce Miller plus Cole Young plus 1 to 2 prospects. And we're going to talk about the new top 10 that was released by Baseball America for the Mariners in just a minute. But yeah, I mean, Bryce Miller plus Cole Young plus 1 to 2 prospects, you might just be able to find a way to pull the trigger on that deal if you're the Mariners. Then there's also a lot of reports, and Divish confirms, he's not viewed as the hardest worker, leader type of guy. But really, what this comes down to is the Mariners could just ask Josh Naylor what he saw being around him in Arizona. And that's once the Mariners even get close to that point of acquiring Marte. If Naylor says, hey, yeah, no, all the reports, are kind of just, hocus pocus about this guy, where, they just, don't really understand who he is, but he's really good for the team. That's one thing. And if Josh Naylor simply doesn't like him, then the Mariners just aren't going to give him a bid. It's pretty much as simple as that. The Mariners, if Josh Naylor doesn't like the guy, we're not bringing him in. If he does, then there's a chance that we would, depending on, even if we can even get to that point with the Diamondbacks. I thought that Divish had some excellent points on the Harry Ford versus Jose Ferrer thing. He said Ford is athletic, but doesn't play athletic. And he makes a comp with Taylor Trammell, who was a super athlete of a prospect, right? Got listed in the top 100 all the time. Even got a little bit of trade value, but not as much as you'd expect, because the athleticism just doesn't show up on the field always. And with Harry Ford, he absolutely is athletic, but he doesn't necessarily have all this athleticism showing up in his game the way that like a Julio Rodriguez does. The guy, if we were talking about guys who play athletic, Ichiro Suzuki, right, all time, top of that list. When you Harry Ford, you see him do a lot of good things on a baseball field, but not a lot of things that you're like, oh, that's going to stick around for years and years to come. Luke Stevenson also, who we drafted this year, much more advanced defensively than Harry Ford. That's just the idea around baseball. Another thing that's very interesting that Divish says, 60% to 70% chance he gives that Mitch Garver comes back based on familiarity. And this is the biggest thing for me, is that he thinks that we're only going to have to pay $2.5 to $3 million to get this done, based on the fact that Austin Hedges got $4 million and James McCann got $2.75 million. If we can get this done for $2.5 to $3 million, then I think that's a clear value. Then Ryan Sloan also, he, quoting Jerry Dipoto, he says, Jerry Dipoto said that Ryan Sloan is so talented that he could debut this year. I think he's saying if we wanted him to, or if he wanted to. This is the opposite of what Just Baseball's The Call Up podcast thought earlier this offseason, where they said that, they think Kate Anderson's more major league ready and could start right now in the majors and not get blown away. Whereas Ryan Sloan might have the higher ceiling, the better stuff overall, but isn't quite as ready. Divish in the same kind of breath says that, while Ryan Sloan, is that talented, could debut this year, he follows with Kate Anderson is a ways away because he hasn't pitched that many innings in a single year, going the college route and stuff. But he has pitched some pretty high level baseball, and he's been pretty good. So, that's just the opposite of what we heard from Just Baseball's The Call Up podcast earlier this offseason. Shout out to R.M. Layton and Jack McMullen. They do an excellent job over there. But I just thought this was interesting, that there's kind of a dichotomy here of we don't know which one is more ready and which one's more talented. But it seems like both of them have a whole lot of talent. And it sounds like some people think that both of them are ready. And those are both sources that I absolutely trust when it comes to this. The Call Up podcast focuses on prospects like this. And then, Divish, obviously, very close to the organization. Anyway, he also, the last thing he kind of ends with is that there's probably another right-handed relief pitcher on the horizon. He also said, one more thing he said is that Ferrer is built like a brick, and I don't swear on this channel, but brick, you can fill it out. And I love that term, but anyway, I love that term, especially to search up brick blank house. That's what Jose Ferrer is built like. When I say he's built like a linebacker, I'm saying the exact same thing that Divish was here. Anyway, so right-hand relief pitcher on the horizon. He says that Jerry Dipoto, and company have talked to several veterans. So we're going to discuss some options in a video tomorrow, and we're going to play a game. Are they better than Vargas? Do they take the last spot on this roster over Vargas, maybe over a Legumina, somebody like that? Because if they're not, then we probably don't sign them since it would be to a minor league deal. No roster guarantee at that point. Baseball America updated their Mariners top 10 prospects. So anytime we get an updated top 10 prospect list from a source we trust, it's just really latest and greatest. And that's why we like it. There's MLB Pipeline, Baseball America, there's other sources, but anytime that somebody updates it, we want to look at it because that's the latest and greatest. And so they go Colt Emerson 1, Cade Anderson 2, Laz Montez 3, Ryan Sloan 4, Michael Arroyo 5, Johnny Farmelo 6, Gerangelo Saintja 7, Luke Stevenson 8, Felnine Celestine 9, Ty Pete 10. So the fact, Felnine Celestine, we've heard about, and we've, know how athletic and talented, like raw-wise he is, since we signed him at 15 years old. But Luke Stevenson, seems to be a really underrated guy. I was not familiar with your game. My apologies, I was not familiar with your game, Luke Stevenson. You are in the top 8 now, and possibly could move even higher. Apparently he's really advanced defensively. Depending on where he is with the bat, this guy, Luke Stevenson, could be a real riser and could be in the top 100 next year. If not sooner, the way that people are talking about him. Felnine Celestine, we hope that he can really show something this year in the minors and rise up there. Colt is awesome, obviously. Cade and Ryan Sloan, it's an interesting kind of debate there about which one's better, which one's more talented, which one's more ready, floor and ceiling, stuff like that. Laz Montez, was awesome last year, from what I understand, at single A, and then once he got bumped up to double A, he struggled for a bit. So if he can just progress this year, if he dominates double A this year, and then if he can get up to triple A and not slow down too much, or even if he slows down a little bit at triple A, I just want to see him do well at each level that he gets to eventually and not plateau. Arroyo seems to have the best. They also did kind of superlatives, and they said that he has the best command of the strike zone, or just kind of best plate approach overall. So he's a guy who could debut this year. Farmelo, they said, is the most athletic, which checks out. This dude is a very freakish athlete. Has a little bit of Jared Kelenic athleticism-wise, but taking his time with development and stuff, doesn't have that huge, Mickey Mantle, we're expecting you to come in and be Mickey Mantle type thing either. So hopefully he can take some more time and learn to hit breaking balls. Then Gerangelo, the switch pitcher and everything. And they said he has the best fastball, which is incredibly interesting too. They said Ty Pete is the fastest. So a whole lot of interesting stuff going on with that top 10 prospects list, just to get an updated one fresh off the press. Pretty awesome. Around the league, I wanted to cover several things. So Pete Alonso to the Baltimore Orioles, 5 years for $155 million, $31 million average annual value. The Baltimore Orioles are going all in. They're giving that whole young lineup something to build around. He fits the park pretty well that they just adjusted a couple years ago. This is a win now move, and I mean, yeah, sure, maybe it's not totally going to be worth it, but it definitely is the move that you want to see from your ownership, and and it could totally work out, and it gives them the chance to compete in a really tough AL East with Toronto, who is just inches away from winning the World Series this year, the Yankees, who are right there, the Red Sox, who are right there, and still young as well. And then I like the Rays, which we're going to talk about next. The Rays are actually after Ketel Marte, and they've been discussing apparently Shane Baz in that mix. They've been discussing Ryan Pepio in that mix. So I think right now I'd put the Rays as front runners for Ketel Marte, as crazy as it sounds. They have the major league pitching to give up, and it sounds like they're willing to do so. And that's just tonight that I'm hearing that. I've also heard that the Astros have discussed Shane Baz with the Rays. So, I mean, if the Astros get their hands on Shane Baz, that wouldn't be a guy that I'd love going against. He could come into our ballpark and put up some pretty good starts. But I also, on the Rays topic, I mean, there's all these other teams, right? You got the Orioles, you've got the Yankees, you've got the Red Sox going super hard in that AL East. And then the Rays, from what I see, the Rays are just going to throw out Jake Fraley and foul off every pitch. They're just going to scrap in that division, and that's going to be pretty fun, I think. Also, the Orioles, to make room for Pete Alonso, DFA'd Maverick Handley, who's a catcher. So the Mariners, right, probably looking for another catching option to bring into the minors. Maybe even, a third catching option on the 40-man roster, because right now it would be Connor Charping or Nick Raposo, actually, as the back the catcher behind Cal Raleigh. And if we sign Mitch Garver, then he would be that guy. So just want some more depth there organizationally. Angels acquire Vaughn Grissom. The Angels have not shown a great ability to develop players over the recent years. So hopefully things work out. But, Vaughn Grissom, best of luck to you. You're going to need it. The Angels, I mean, Vaughn Grissom, don't really know what to make of it, right? A guy who's had some success on good teams at the major league level, not had a ton of it. Really don't know what to make of it there. And you never know what to make of the Angels. I mean, they're making moves. You don't know what their plan is, or really how much of one they even have. The Orioles discussing Edward Cabrera with the Marlins. That could be interesting. The Orioles making moves to win now. And they needed starting pitching, so they could go get Edward Cabrera. That also gives the Marlins the chance to capitalize and get one of those bats from the Orioles. The Marlins, you look up and they could be a bat away from contending. But the Brewers signed Akil Baddoo. The Brewers might have got one here. I mean, Akil Baddoo, no question about the talent, the power-speed combo. And if the Brewers can teach him to just scrap in the batter's box, just foul off pitches, get your pitch, and they've shown a real ability to do that. They've resurrected Andrew Vaughn, resurrected Jake Bauers, resurrected all sorts of players over the last year, especially to the best record in the regular season in baseball. The Braves signing Robert Suarez and Mike Yastrzemski, and those are not just roster filler players. Those are kind of like win now pieces. So they think they can contend in that division. You've got the Phillies, who got Schwarber back. They have an offer out to Real Muto after getting Schwarber back, but they kind of are running it back with the same team. You've got the Mets, who lost Pete Alonso, and unless they get Kyle Tucker, are taking a step back. The Nationals are probably not going to do much. It's developmental. They got a lot of young guys. I even heard rumors about C.J. Abrams getting discussed in trades. And then, you've got the Marlins, who, could be a bat away, but also could not be. The Royals signed Lane Thomas, who I thought would have been good for a minor league option for the Mariners, a guy to bring in just for some right-handed hitting help. And then the Cubs signed former Mariner Colin Snyder, and this was a minor league deal, but shout out Colin Snyder. Go do great things with the Cubs. I'm sure they'll need you at some point. Then WBC-wise, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is in for Samurai Japan. Roki Sasaki is out. That makes sense. Yamamoto, being the veteran, doesn't have too much to work on in spring training. Definitely don't want to wear out that arm too much, but I mean, it means a lot, right? Samurai Japan, the most successful national team ever, trying to run it back. And then Roki Sasaki's transitioning back to a starter, and what I mean, even had his rough patches. So it's we're not sure that he's the perfect person to be in that rotation or in that bullpen. And then Garrett Cleveland. I kind of misspelled a few things, excuse me for that, but Garrett Clevenger in for Team USA, deepening that bullpen. Then the Team USA is working on Logan Webb, which I like. I mean, that's a great pitcher, but then Cody Bellinger as well, which I'm not as sure about with the stacked pool that USA has. They needed Cody Bellinger, but that's who they're working on right now. Ellie De La Cruz, we announced, was going to play for Dominican Republic in the WBC. MLB announced it and everything, but since all those posts have been deleted, and there's news that the Reds might not let Ellie De La Cruz play. So that's going to be interesting. Like we said yesterday, Julio signed a big contract. The Mariners might not let him play in the WBC. That might be the reason hasn't been announced yet. Hopefully they do. And then Yainer Diaz and Johan Rojas are in for Dominican Republic. Jonathan Aranda and Brennan Bernardino in for Mexico. That team is getting interesting by the day. And then Netherlands team looks nasty if they get all these names, which shout out to Curacao, who qualified for the World Cup by taking a whole lot of Netherlands players and naturalizing them to their national team. The WBC team might do the same. They might take a whole bunch of Curacao players and naturalize them to the Netherlands for the WBC. Xander Bogaerts, Sadan Rafaela, Ozzy Albies, Carter K-Boom, Jerickson Profar, Didi Gregorius, Jonathan Scope, and Drew Jones. And then also there was a little bit of talk about Haiti in the WBC someday, because if they did put together a team, obviously Haiti dealing with tons of issues as a country with gangs controlling most of the country, very tough quality of life. My heart goes out to all those people in Haiti, but it's on the same island as the Dominican Republic, split right down the middle. And if Haiti did have a WBC team, they would get a whole lot of Dominican-born players who weren't playing for the DR, which there's still a stacked pool. Then they would also get almost all the Cuban players, which, there's always a crisis around the Cuban national team. So that's interesting. And my advice, if you like WBC stuff, go follow Sean Spradling on Twitter. That's Sean_Spradling at SHAWN_SPRADLING. He is the best World Baseball Classic coverage that I have found. If you found anything better, let me know down in the comments below. Also, the D-backs and the Padres are playing in Mexico City on April 25th and 26th officially. That is going to do it for today. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below about the winter meetings, about all this stuff we talked about, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Go M's.